Sometimes in life, do you just rewatch a childhood favorite movie of yours to relive old emotions you once felt? It takes you back to a time when you weren't as critical or particular, but could just enjoy something for the good it offered. Even if you notice the flaws and some parts are boring to you now, it doesn't beat the nostalgic feeling of transporting back to a time where things were more innocent, simple, and magical. And as you watch for the 100th time, the story still sucks you in and rattles you when the villains have the upper hand, makes you cheer when the heroes overcome, and the same happy ending still gives you an overwhelming sense of joy. These childlike experiences leave a profound mark in our lives that remind us to enjoy the moment. Playing Final Fantasy IX is like reliving one of those moments. Even though I've only played it 3 times, each time brought me to a childlike happy place. It's not a perfect game. Heck, it's not even that good compared to where we are today, although that is an unfair comparison due to the age of this game at the time of this video. There are some parts of the gameplay that just feel sluggish, and graphics are outdated, but the music, characters, and story are timeless. There's a passion and heart in it that you don't really see in most contemporary games today.
They don't make them like they used to anymore.
The story begins with Zidane, who is a member of a band of thieves called the Tantalus Theater Troupe. He is always out to flirt with the ladies, but is a pretty nice guy who deeply cares about his friends. They are hired on a secret mission to kidnap the Princess of Alexandria, whose name is Garnet, and they do so by disguising themselves as performers of a theater play that takes place in the castle. However, when Zidane encounters Princess Garnet, he instantly falls for her beauty and is shocked when she insists that he kidnaps her, but doesn't tell him why. Garnet is no ordinary princess. She has been pampered her whole life, but is interested in understanding the world outside her castle walls to better relate and empathize with her people. She is highly suspicious of her mother, Queen Braun, because of how strange the queen has been acting lately, especially towards her. As they make for their escape in an airship, they are shot down by the queen, crash landing into the evil forest. This begins their adventure together, which slowly unfolds into a charming love story.
Thief and princess falling in love? That sounds oddly familiar.
A whole new world!
Throughout the journey, you'll recruit many friends along the way. All the characters are interesting and have unique personalities. There's Vivi, our beloved black mage, who's not so loved in this story. He doesn't remember where he came from and has a hard time fitting in. The kids laugh at him and are afraid of him. He's looking for a place where he can belong. You have Steiner, most noble and loyal knight to Princess Garnet, who would do anything to keep her safe. He has a strong sense of justice, but is goofy and clumsy. He has by far the best ending in the game though.
If you know, you know.
There are more characters to discover, and every one of them was likable. You'll be mainly controlling Zidane, but throughout the game, you also control different characters and get their perspective on certain aspects of the story. There are also ATE or active time events that will appear and show what other characters are currently doing. This gives the player story context, and I was all for it. The story may have started off lighthearted and simple, but it gets dark and intense pretty quick. It's more than just a love story or saving one's kingdom. It's also about finding where you belong, discovering your purpose in life, defying destiny to protect those closest to you, self-identity, and saving the world. It's an amazing story that is well told, well paced, and best of all, it all wraps up together and will make you feel like a child watching your favorite movie again. I rate the story a 9 out of 10. The Steam release of Final Fantasy IX came out in 2016, which has upgraded graphics from its original PlayStation release in 2000. I really like the art style of this game. Its characters and structure designs are more cartoony in a way, and I thought this gave the game some charm. Combine this with its goofy moments, quirky character designs, and exaggerated reactions reminds me of older cartoons like the Looney Tunes. The Queen though.
Is she even human?
Bruh, I thought she was the king.
The game brings us into a medieval fantasy world known as Gaia, and its main locations are beautifully constructed from its kingdoms, dungeons, and villages. You don't see much of this in-game due to limited exploration, but the cutscenes give us a better perspective of just how large and gorgeous this world actually is, or sadly, can be. Because let's be honest about the graphics for the Steam version. It's not that big of an improvement from the original. I believe it wasn't intended to be a remaster, so I'll show some grace. I just feel like they could have done a better job, especially with most of the backgrounds. Textures are noticeably blurry. Although the cutscenes are pretty good, I believe they run at 15 FPS still, which isn't as visually pleasant when combined with just how blurry things are most of the time. It kinda makes me feel like not a whole lot of work went into the updated version of this game. The characters look good for the most part, and the world looks beautiful and large on the outside, but unfortunately you only get to see specks of it, and what you see makes you feel like you need glasses. Therefore, I rate graphics a 5 out of 10. Music in Final Fantasy IX hits all the chords to give you an adventurous and fantastical feeling every step of the journey. It includes multiple genres such as classical, orchestral, choral, and rock. The beautiful melodies are unforgettable, charming, and catchy, almost old-school Disney-like even. I didn't grow up playing Final Fantasy IX, but the songs will leave a mark like what Pokemon Yellow and Ocarina of Time did for me that will forever be ingrained into the memories of my soul. I just wish there was partial or complete voice acting because that would have been the icing on the cake. The music carries the game very hard though. If any game soundtrack is unforgettably good to me, it deserves at least a 9 out of 10. Final Fantasy IX uses an ATB turn-based system that is interesting and fun, but has more bad than good. How it works is you have to wait for a character's ATB to completely fill before they can act. How quickly it fills is dependent on the character's speed stat. This means that the speed stat is a lot more significant, so spells like haste and slow are more impactful to combat. It's possible a character or enemy can act multiple times in quicker successions before a slower character can act. This is really great, but this and how cool some abilities looked were pretty much all I liked about the combat. What I despised about it was waiting for your ATB bar to fill. The enemy encounter rate is very high in this game, and after like 10 hours, waiting to act just feels slow. There are options to skip combat intros, speed up combat, and hitting F1 will speed up the game by 3 times, but this only helps so much or can make things feel very chaotic. Another annoying aspect of the ATB system is you don't know when the enemy's turn is, so you may have already selected a move for a character, but then the enemy acts first and knocks out that character, or you may have selected to heal a low health character, but the enemy acts first and knocks out that low health character, causing you a wasted turn. You would be surprised to see how often this happens. So to avoid this, I'm always having to be a little more patient before acting to see if the enemy will be acting first so that I can avoid wasted moments like these, which means you guessed it, more waiting. It would have been better if this was a straight up turn-based system that still accounted for the speed attribute, and if there was some way to know when the enemy is going to act, it would have respected the player's time and mental health.
I'm gonna need counseling.
Another thing I also did not like about combat is feeling like I always had to steal with Zidane. I mean, you technically didn't have to, but if you want stronger, rare items earlier, you have to steal. And stealing is not always successful, so every failed attempt is a wasted turn on Zidane. Don't get me wrong, stealing is beneficial, which was why I continued doing it, and there are abilities that improve stealing and even give it damage later, which is good, but the focus on stealing didn't allow me to appreciate using Zidane as much until way later in the game. And even then, I was still initially focused on stealing. Now let's talk about trance. Trance is the stronger form your characters automatically go into for a limited amount of time when their trance bar is filled. The trance bar fills up by being attacked, and how long a character remains in trance is dependent on their spirit stat. Trance is different for every character. For example, Vivi's trance allows him to cast magic twice instead of once. This is a really cool idea for combat, but was executed poorly. What really sucks is that you cannot control when you enter trance. Your character oftentimes will enter trance near the end of combat, which doesn't allow you to use it to its max potential, or your character will be low health, enter trance, then gets attacked again and gets knocked out, not giving you a chance to use their trance. It's just a bit infuriating and random. Next, let's talk about the grind, which also transitions to the progression system. You gain EXP from combat to grow levels, but stat growth and learning new abilities are very different from your usual RPG. Your stat growth when leveling is determined by how good your current equipment is when leveling up, which means grinding is much more beneficial when you have late game equipment. This doesn't mean grinding earlier isn't meaningless, you just shouldn't overdo it. But now I'm going to sound like I'm contradicting myself, because to be able to learn newer abilities, you will have to grind. The way you learn new abilities in this game is through equipment. Equipment will have abilities attached to them. When you have that equipment equipped, you'll have access to those abilities. You'll then have to go into the ability menu and manually equip those abilities for them to be applicable. Each ability has their own magic stone cost, and you can only equip as many abilities as your character's magic stones allow. This amount will increase as you level up. However, if you want your character to permanently learn the ability, there's an ability bar on the equipment that needs to be completed first. You can progress the ability bar as you complete combat and gain AP, or ability points. The drawbacks to this are you have to have that certain equipment equipped to be able to progress the ability bar, and you gain very little AP after combat. You'll have to grind multiple times throughout the game just to learn newer and stronger abilities. This is another mechanic I feel that doesn't respect the player's time because combat just takes so long. I feel like you'll either love or hate the combat and progression system. For me, I loved it for the first 15 hours or so, but then it just became tedious and annoying. Lastly, I wanted to touch on the card game you can play called Tetramaster.
No, let's not go there.
We already know.
Yeah, it's bad and complicated. I know it sounds like I was just ranting about the gameplay, but I wanted to be honest and objective about it. I had fun with it for a bit, but it eventually became a chore, and I won't let any bias or nostalgic feeling cloud my rating, so I give gameplay a 5 out of 10. So who's this game for? If you're wanting to experience a charming and deep story with great characters and beautiful music, then this game is for you. If you're not willing to tolerate slow and flawed gameplay mechanics, outdated graphics, and blurry backgrounds, or you're having an existential crisis, then this game is not for you. Or wait, maybe it is for you if you're going through an existential crisis, because the game has an answer to that. Overall, I rate Final Fantasy IX a 7 out of 10, which is pretty good in my book. On Steam, the game is sold for $20.99 USD, but it's less than $10 when on sale. I would recommend to get it on sale. I know it sounded like I was bashing this game in the previous section, but despite its flaws and what I didn't like, this game is still special to me. Its story, characters, and music take me back to a time that rarely any other game can do. It just makes me feel like a kid again when playing it, and there was something special and different when playing games as a kid versus now as an adult. I can't promise it'll do the same for you, but if you can allow yourself to appreciate what it has to offer, Zidane and Garnet won't be the only ones falling in love. I highly recommend you to watch my other videos on modding Final Fantasy IX and how mods nullify almost all of the shortcomings of the game, making it the ultimate way to experience Final Fantasy IX.
Who needs a remaster when we have modders?
Thank you so much for watching my review. If you enjoyed it or if it was helpful in any way, please comment, like, and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for more game reviews, modding guides, and mod showcases for your favorite games. If you didn't like the video or disagree with anything I've said, also comment below. I'd love to hear from you.